Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're doing well. Today, we're going to be talking about in-game assets. So we've obviously got the opportunity to invest in the coins themselves right here, Axie Infinity, Decentraland, Sandbox, all of these types of things in the play to earn or NFT categories right up here on coinmarketcap.com. But the second way to invest into these types of projects is to look at the in-game assets, look at the in-game NFTs, because of all the benefits that NFT brings, which I've spoken about multiple times in other videos, such as having verifiable ownership. You can be the sole owner of something, scarcity, rarity, all of these things that are coming into the digital world that we haven't had up until very, very recently in the grand scale of things. I'm going to be talking about exactly what I'm going to be looking for and how I'm determining the value of these in-game assets. Because if you can determine the value of something and you can predict the value of something in the future, and then you can compare the value that is printed on the screen in terms of either the value of the currency or an in-game asset like we have got up here. If we bought a witch lady, for example, and we think, okay, cool, we think Sandbox is going to quadruple in its users in 4 years, then what do you think is going to happen to that this particular asset? Well, more than likely, it's going to increase in value in the same way that in the real world, there's only so many houses. And so houses will increase in value in high demand areas. And so we're going to be breaking down, in my opinion, what makes things valuable in game. So I highly recommend that you stick around to the end of this video. Hopefully you'll get a lot of value from it. Obviously, it's not financial advice. It's just my opinion. I'm just a stupid investor. So please do your own due diligence before you make your own decisions. Okay, so this is the diagram, I guess you could call it, that I put together. And for me, these are the main components when it comes down to measuring or assessing the value of in-game assets. So the first thing is industry, community, and pop culture. Now, what a lot of people will do is they will assume that something is rare and therefore it has value. This is not true. You could you could make something really unique, like a paper clip, and glue it to another paper clip in a weird shape. That's rare. There's only one of those on the planet in that particular shape. Does that make it valuable? No, it doesn't. Okay, because rarity, uniqueness on its own does not make something valuable. And so for me, this is the way that I'm going to be approaching things. What does the industry look like? And what is it going to look like? In other words, is there a huge potential for this industry to take off? Is it already in the process of taking off? Is there a supportive community? Because if there isn't a supportive community, like with example, I can't talk today, with Pokemon cards, for example, if you imagine that no one liked Pokemon, no one really cared about Pokemon at all, and literally no one did, then it doesn't matter how rare a Pokemon card's going to be, it just wouldn't be worth anything because people don't care. And so the element of people caring is the underlying foundation for determining something's value in terms of its intrinsic value. And so the next thing is pop culture. This is similar to industry. These things can all kind of intertwine, but essentially we are looking at the industry, we're looking at the community to see if there is a loyal base of followers. Is there an overall thing that people can stand behind in terms of gaming? Is the game enjoyable? Are people playing the game? Do people like the game? We already know, if you've seen my previous videos, that the potential for the industry of crypto gaming, metaverse, and all these kind of concepts is absolutely huge. And so we can kind of cross industry off, in my opinion. And so it comes down to what's the community like, what's the quality of the game like, and paying attention to these things. And also, it doesn't mean that you have to pick the perfect asset every time. It's about spread betting and betting on lots of different things. And even if a few of those explode, that will make up for all of the losses on the other things in most scenarios, in my opinion. That's the approach that I'm going to be taking. And so once you've established that something that the industries are doing well, the community for a particular, in this case, a game, is really, really good, and the pop culture, which is kind of similar to the industry, but it's all linking together, and you can see a very firm basis for a game, you can see some support, that allows you to go on to the next step. Okay, so the next step is these are elements that go into determining value, in my opinion. And so that's rarity and uniqueness. They're basically two ways of getting at the same thing. The age of something, if something is really, really old, again, if you bought the first ever Marvel comic, if you look at how much they cost, they are very, very expensive. The next thing is utility. Is there an in-game utility for this thing? Is there an out-of-game utility for this thing? This is really important because a lot of projects, if you see influencers dropping really expensive NFTs, people will buy it at a huge price and then it just falls through the floor because there is no intrinsic value there. They had the element of pop culture straight off the bat, and then that's why loads of people bought it, but it didn't sustain itself. It wasn't a long-term thing. And therefore, when making an investment decision for me, I want to be making sure that it has long-term potential. And for me, that will come from the utility, whether that's an in-game, ability that a weapon gives you or a horse gives you in Derace or something like that, or it's a piece of land that you can rent out in-game or whatever it is, you can sell it or you can let other people build on it, whatever it is. If there is some sort of utility, that is going to add to the fire and add, fuel to the fire, okay? Next thing is relevance. When talking about land, if we go to the sandbox game, we want to be asking ourselves, land is a good example. How long is this piece of land going to be relevant? Or not how long is it going to be relevant, but is it relevant in terms of its location? So for example, we want to be looking at, okay, what's surrounding this land? If someone's playing in game, the best pieces of land are going to be near the best attractions, the best things to do. Is the same in real life. If you were living in the middle of nowhere, that's going to be worth a hell of a lot less than than a house that is worth a house that is right in the middle of the action, in the middle of the city with all of the attractions and amazing things of that city. It's the same thing that's going to apply here. And so for me, relevance means looking at what the context of that item is, whether it's land, whether it's a character, whether it's an ability, whatever it is, I'm looking for context. I'm looking for what does it add to the gaming experience, because ultimately these are games, people want to have a good time. And so that is going to be the major thing that just that underlies and drives the consumer behavior. Okay. And so I've kind of already broken this down, but this is going to be what I'm doing for making my investment decisions in terms of in-game assets. So the first thing is what we basically discussed at the beginning. It's looking at the macro. Before you even look into the individual assets themselves, the main thing I'm looking at is what are the industry 5 to 10 year projections? I am looking to be a long-term investor in these things. I'm not looking to just get in and get out. There are certain projects that I am looking to just get in and get out, but overall, the industry and approach that I'm taking is looking at the long term, and just doing a few quick flips on the side. Number 2 is existing community. How engaged and loyal are they? Are there people really excited about a project launching? Has the project already launched? What are the opinions? Is there any proof of concept of this community beforehand? Sandbox is another good example, because this game, before the crypto element was a part of it, was released in 2012 on mobile. 70 million worlds have been created, because you can create worlds in Sandbox. That's a hell of a lot. That's 100,000 a day that are still being made. That's proof of concept right there. And that's without all the benefits of crypto gaming. Okay, and so that is huge. Once I know that thing, then I can move on to the micro, and the micro being the actual game assets themselves, because I've confirmed that the overall picture is willing to support and showing signs of supporting the overall movement of the coin, of the game, of the company. So if yes, move on to the following for each individual in-game asset. Is this item rare? And I would class anything as rare as under 200 as fairly rare. Under 50 is going to be a lot more rare. Under 10 is going to be very, very rare. Okay, now again, just because you have everything lined up and something is rare doesn't mean it's going to be worth anything. Okay, and so this is why I am playing my bets fairly conservative here. Land for me is something that is always going to have utility, and so land is what I'm going to be mostly focusing on. There are some in-game assets that I think would be quite good to look at, but for me, land is going to be where the big things are. Just in my opinion, I haven't looked into the individual character utilities. If you want to see that, let me know in the comment section below. I will probably make a video on that soon, because that would be a very interesting topic for me to go into. Next thing is this item brand new or is it old? Okay, so if we scroll up to the top here and let's look at the oldest of all of the things that were created. I have got a feeling that these are actually the oldest here, because if you go and if I sort by lower price to higher price, oh no, they fixed it. Okay, so this must be the oldest then. A Chow chart, this would not surprise me if this was worth a decent amount of money in the future, purely because of the fact that it is one of the original pieces of art. And if the metaverse takes off, and imagine Sandbox is the #1 for a period of time, these original pieces of art are going to be very, very valuable. And obviously There are only 400 created. There's still 303 left out of those 400. It's not the most rare, but it's still fairly decent. And we can see, something like this, for example, Smart Frame, only 7 of those in existence. These are all incredible things to bear in mind. But for me, I'd also like some sort of utility, because I need to understand the collectible mindset a little bit more. And I will make a video on that as I'm learning about it, so that you can hopefully learn with me on that journey. But essentially, I want to make sure that it doesn't have to be really old, but I just want a few of these things to line up. It doesn't have to be the oldest thing, no, but I want it to have utility. I want it to be fairly rare, and I want to make sure that it's relevant. Okay, and so again, does this item have in-game or out-of-game utility? Important. And then how relevant is it? What is near the land I'm buying, or what will the character do for me in game? There needs to be a payoff, in my opinion. However, saying that, if you look at something like Fortnite, then you will very quickly see that a skin doesn't give you any benefit. It doesn't make your character stronger. It is purely pop culture. It's purely just trying to show off, trying to look cool, trying to do all that sort of stuff. And so if you really, really understand that, and you're on top of all these things, you're staying on top of certain communities, then that would be where I would be more comfortable with buying pieces of art like this, because I would understand the references a little bit better. This is something I'm not too versed on. I'm not too caught up on at this point in time. And so I'm going to do a lot more research before I start talking about this. For me, at the moment, the safer bet is land, in my personal opinion. And obviously, I don't want to just go all in on Sandbox. There are loads of other games that have similar structures and stuff like that. And so again, it's about spreading my bets over 5, 10 different things, and then hoping that 1 or 2 or 3 of those will pay off and make up for the rest of the damages, the losses that we would have experienced. So hopefully that helps you. It's a very, very simple way of looking at things, in my opinion. And I think it hopefully will clear up a lot of the issues, if any of you were wondering about in-game assets, or this is a new concept to you. Either way, I hope that this helps you. If you have found value, then I'd appreciate you leaving a like on the video. And if you've got any content suggestions, let me know in the comment section below. Take